WNST for March Madness coming your way soon. Been a slow couple of weeks around here. I've been going a little easy. This guy's been running around with the Terps a little bit. You know him from Terp Talk down the dial, as well as the host of the Sports Boosters Banquet this month. We welcome in from Terp Talk out on Twitter and at terptalk.com. The defending champion, Bruce Posner, joining us. And hey, I left you alone when the Terps were getting their ass kicked and having all these injuries. They won a couple games. I'm like, I'm going to bring Posner on. We got good news around here. I mean, it's been a good week, right? I mean, they could have easily lost that Northwestern game on Monday night.
No, it was a big win. You know that. If you lose 7 in a row on the road, any road win was great. And I thought they played fantastic. They got great contributions across the board. Look, when Dion Wiley and Checo play the way they did against Northwestern, Maryland can stay on the court with anybody. You're going to get it from Cowan and Herter every game, and Morcell as well. But when you get those, of course, Fernando. When you get 2 more and you go a little deep into the bench, it bodes well. It bodes well going into the Big Ten tournament and the final game of the year against Michigan.
Well, let's go piece by piece here. Let's just talk about where the Terps are. Not making the tournament. Have you resigned to that, or are you among those who believe they can go win 4 or 5 games next week in New York? I mean, it would be incredible if they did and all that. I don't see it. I don't think they have the talent to stay with these good teams, and I think there are more good teams than maybe we thought there were going to be. There really is a have-not thing going on in this conference this year, I think.
Nestor, it's kind of strange about the Big Ten's kind of lack of respect this year. And you look at a team like Nebraska that I think is it's well over 500, and they're on the bubble. And they're in 3rd place in the Big Ten, but they're on the bubble. So you say, well, Maryland doesn't have a shot then. Maybe they wind up 500 in the Big Ten. My own personal opinion, if they wind up 500 in the Big Ten, go to New York and get a couple wins, you're talking about a team that's going to have 22 wins. If they somehow could get to a final game, I can't see how they could be turned down to the tournament. I think that 2 wins in the Big Ten, a big upset over Michigan State, because that's how it's looking.
Right.
Maryland's kind of locked into the 8th seed.
I mean, I like the optimism of they're going to have a chance to beat a good team again, which was part of the problem when the injuries happened and going on the road and losing, and then losing the games at home, and just being sort of overmatched by the better teams at that point, getting one more chance to throw a right hook next Thursday or next Friday. I'll hear that, Bruce. I mean, I will. I don't know that they can connect on that against the Michigan State or against the Purdue, and I know you were at the Purdue game. How about Mackey Arena? That's something, isn't it?
Loudest place I've ever heard in my life for basketball. I've never, ever. I was sitting next to the Sun Paper's Don Marcus, and we could not talk to each other. It was so loud.
I sat next to Don when I was there, and I took pictures. Luke and I were there because they played in the middle of the Combine 2 years ago. So Luke and I were out at the Combine, and we drove over. We extended our trip by a day to go to a Saturday game at Mackey. I mean, it was a biblical experience. I mean, I can't – if anybody were to ask me something they should do that they don't know that they should do, nobody told me how awesome that would be to go to Purdue and see a basketball. Rod Woodson didn't even tell me that, man.
I was shocked. I was not, I had a few guys tell me this, so you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And I was just shocked at the fervor of the fans.
Well, first off, I love wooden, right? So anything that's wooden, I'm digging. So I really felt like I was going into a snapshot. I mean, I'm the guy with the Seth Davis wooden book on my nightstand. You know what I mean? Like, that's my thing. So I loved it for that. But you got there when they were really good, right? Like, you're there where they feel like they can win a national championship, and you're looking up and seeing the, Joe Barry Carroll jersey up on the roof there and the wooden stuff and the circle. They think they can win a championship. I think that's a whole different environment to go into in a February where they're itching for that sort of thing in Indiana.
No doubt. As an aside, you and me are definitely into stadiums and arenas. We
Absolutely.
Love it. We go everywhere. You go more than I do, but I go my share. But anyway, so I was out in San Francisco visiting my daughter, and I went to the new Sobrato Center for the University of San Francisco Dons. I was there that night. They pulled the upset over St. Mary's. And you go onto the wall of fame there, and you see, of course, Bill Russell. That's the featured guy. And then next to him, Gino Marchetti. Wow, I love that, Nestor.
I know you love that. Hey, you got to go over see the new UMBC joint, too. That's
been there. I was there for opening day. Fantastic.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Fantastic. I was so impressed. The sight lines and everything about it is great. I mean, it's so great to have these super new arenas in Baltimore for the mid-major kind of basketball with Towson and CQ and Coppin State and now UMBC. It's local basketball is just dynamite, and one of these days it'll take off. I don't know when.
Well, I said to Ryan Odom, I had him on earlier, I said, you got a second level there. You got to sell tickets now. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get people down there. First thing I said when I walked in there Sunday with my wife is, man, John Mayer's going to play here one day. We're going to come down here, one Thursday night for Elton John or something. I mean, there's going to be shows there. And, I'm excited about all of it. But certainly, locally, UMBC stands the best chance to make the tournament. But Maryland has this right punch in them, I think, maybe next week. Where are you when you see Fernando growing up the way he did over the weekend?
Well, I worry a little bit. You know why?
Not for long.
It's true. I mean, he has this game of 18 points and 16 rebounds. And I said, wait a minute, keep it to about 15 and 11, all right? Hitting those stratospheric numbers of rebounds, and you look at his potential, and that's all the NBA looks at. I worry that I'm calling, and I just think that it's hard for these kids to say no anymore, especially when there's options that you don't have to get in the NBA right away. That's the difference now. There's other ways to get there, and teams put you up for a couple of years, like Layman. Layman hasn't even played, and he's making what's he making? I think like $700,000, $800,000 a year. Well, Nestor, that's not bad coming out of college.
Yeah, he's not going to do that as an accountant, right? I mean, literally, right?
There's no doubt.
He is Bruce Posner. He is Terp Talk out on the web as well as on Twitter as we get to the end of the end here and playing out the string. Some thoughts about matchups for Maryland, and you talk about Michigan State, and that's the way it would set up. Who would they match up well against next week to create trouble? And obviously they have an opportunity against Michigan this weekend too.
Yeah, well, Michigan win on Sunday would be another. It would be a top-tier win that they haven't had, and they need it desperately. And could we upset Michigan? What are you talking about? We had them beat when we were at Michigan. I mean, it was like we were, it took an unbelievable play and a couple of mistakes for Michigan to beat us, but yeah, they could beat Michigan.
That was the inbound game, right?
I'm optimistic when it comes to basketball. I just can't throw in the towel and say there's no chance. I think, what about a win over a number 2 or 3 ranked team in the country like Michigan State? All of a sudden, all those RPI syndromes go way up. I won't throw in the towel.
Okay,
I will not
fair
throw
enough.
in the towel yet. I'll throw in the towel when it was over. I might have thrown in the towel yesterday. Had they lost Northwestern and been below 500 in the Big Ten, I think they have to win the Big Ten tournament. And with this Maryland team, I just don't know if that can happen to beat a Michigan and a Purdue on back-to-back nights. I don't know if that can happen. But you know what? Let's play the game, right?
Oh, well, absolutely.
That's the way I look at it. And Kevin Herter is hitting from Jupiter these days. His range is extending and extending. And you get play like that from Deion Wiley, like he played last Monday night against Northwestern. Anything can go. So, yeah, I still will not throw in the towel. I am still somewhat positive, and, I'm still a Turgeon backer.
You taking a train up to Manhattan next week?
Without question.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting thing going up there for the weekend, right? And I don't know that I'm going to track you down next week.
I'll go Thursday. And to me, the best day of basketball, you've been there, is the Friday of the Big Ten tournament or the day when the top 8 teams play. Those are 4 great games. Upsets always happen. And look at Michigan last year, their run. Here's my point. It's the best day of basketball. I wouldn't miss it for anything, especially when it's in New York. I've been to Chicago, Indianapolis, and now I'll be in New York. And, of course, I was in Washington. A Big Ten tournament that day is great. And, for the Big Ten, it's never that much trouble going to the wherever they play. And, listen, Maryland loses the first day. I'll be heartbroken, but I still probably will stay for day two. Think about the matchups on day two. It's fantastic.
Hey, Bruce, you know what's crazy is I'm going to be out in Indianapolis in the middle of next week, and, Luke and I go every year. We've always wanted to go to Bloomington and see a game, and we haven't figured that out yet because that's on my bucket list to go see where Bobby Knight threw chairs. Don't ask me why.
It's a must.
Yeah, and I'll get there. And Marcus tells me I need to go to Nebraska and see a game, and I believe that as well. The New York thing's awesome. I'm going to be in Indy, and the hotels are outrageously expensive. And I'm like, well, the Combine's there, and it's they've built some hotels there, and I'm in Indianapolis. It feels like all the time now. And I looked up and I said, I wonder what's playing at the arena, whether the Pacers are home or John Mellencamp's in town or whatnot. No. Big Ten women's tournament is in town in Indianapolis. So that is going on in Indy when I'm in the heart of the Midwest, and you're going to be in New York City watching the real Big Ten tournament there for the men. It is, it's become more of a coast-to-coast conference here, and I think that's part of what they're trying to do next week up in New York is sort of, get in on the turf of what used to be the Big East, right?
Well, it's funny. They're doing it a week early. All the major tournaments are the following week. This is like the time for the mid-major tournaments. And in this particular case, I think it works well for the Big Ten because it'll be the featured tournament next week.
Sure.
Rather than when the ACCs play, when the ACC's tournament and the Big Ten and the SEC, and they're all at the same time, I think that it's kind of like the interest is split. But next week, with Michigan and Purdue playing, two of the top teams in the country, with Ohio State along the way, it becomes a big tournament across the country, what everybody will be watching. And hats off to them. I think it works great for the Big Ten this year.
Anything you want to say about the lacrosse team? Because I know that's part of what you do too, and to the victor go the spoils, right? Defending champion lacrosse team.
Yes, isn't that a great way to say it?
You have to say it that way, right?
Yeah, it is. It is the way to hear it. Yeah, they're 3-0. They're a team in progress. You have so many freshmen playing and sophomores, and I think Tillman might have scheduled himself a little not easy, but a little lighter early on. But after the first 4 games, he runs the gauntlet of maybe the toughest 7 games in a row on his schedule. And are they ready for this? There are going to be some growing pains. This is not last year's team. Jared Bernhardt's been incredible, and Connor Kelly's great, but you're working freshmen into the lineup, and there's always a price to pay there. And I think the sign was the way they struggled against High Point, winning 10-3 against a team that hadn't won, and then having to salvage a 16-14 win. But great teams have those kind of games, and they find a way to win.
The road to Foxborough, right?
Always, finds a way to win. But here's the bottom line: you got to believe in Coach Tillman. 7 years, 6 Final Fours. What else can you say, Nestor?
Well, the weekend of May 26, 27, 28, I just looked up the championship because I'm like, where are they playing it this year? That's the first thing I thought. I know it's not here, and I'm wondering, did Denver get it or something? At some point.
This year it's back to New England. It's back to Foxborough.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I've been there 4 times. Well, I've been to every Final Four, naturally. And I've been to the Final Fours when they're not in it. But I've been to every Final Four that they've been in, and I think this will be the 3rd one in Foxborough, and maybe the 4th. They lost to Loyola up there, Maryland, when Loyola had their great run at the national championship. And I know. Of course, they just won, but there's one more. The championship games get muddled when you're in so many of them, right?
Oh, I think so. When you say 6 or 7, they all run together. They run together for the Patriots fans too. Trust me. So, hey, man.
Yeah, except the NFL, the AFC championship game is always in New England, which is ridiculous. It really is.
Well, when you cheat, this is what happens.
I don't know about cheat. I think when you're in a horrible division, hey. Question I got to ask you.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins, Is he worth $180 million for 6 years?
Well, if it's playing with him or playing with Ryan Mallett, you know what I'm saying? Like, tell me what the other option is, and that's part of the problem is there's not enough quarterbacks to go around, so everyone smells good. I mean, look at what Garoppolo did out in San Francisco for a couple of weeks, and they gave him all that money. I remember that happened
4 games. It reminds me of Scott Mitchell. 4 games. Now, Garoppolo might turn out to be great.
I always say Rob Johnson is the one I always use because he had a good week or two and, turned it into a lot of them. A lot of those guys have Kevin Kolb. Nick Foles was one of those guys that looked good for 10 minutes, and now he's a Super Bowl champion, right?
Yeah, well, Nick Foles was great. But it's getting insane. It's getting insane, the money. I mean, I just don't see how when you give a guy $30 million you can build the team around them. Look, the Ravens had their problems giving Flacco 20 or 21, whatever they gave him.
Hey, look, man, Steelers have been paying their quarterback a lot of money. The Packers have been paying their quarterback a lot of money. That's the cost of poker. The bad news is when you pay $30 million and you get Kirk Cousins. You get just a guy. You get a guy that perennially has the backup that has you thinking, well, maybe this guy be okay. The A.J. McCarron syndrome, as it were, right?
Yeah, I think you're not giving Kirk enough credit. I think he's a damn good quarterback, and he's a leader. He's a rah-rah guy. He's great in the locker room. He's, everything about him is right. And I think that in today's world, if guys are worth $30 million, he's worth $30 million.
Well,
there's nothing else to say.
Do you think you can win 12 games with him? Yeah, if you think you can win 12 games with him, then you give him $30 million, right?
Hey, I guess the Jets are going to find out, or I don't understand why he wouldn't go to Minnesota if they're interested in him, but I think we'll see that over the next week or two.
Bruce, Chris Tillman got $3 million the other day. Case closed. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Terp Talk's the way to find Bruce Posner.
Hey, what are you talking about? Hey, to $3 million, he's got $10 million in incentives if he reaches them.
I hear you, man. I hear you, too. I watched him pitch last summer, and he's a nice guy and all that, but, I don't think he's the answer. If he's the answer, I want to know what the hell the question is.
Listen, the world is upside down when millions of dollars are thrown. What's wrong with $1 million, What's wrong with $2 million? It's how's it get to 30?
That's what Mr. Angelos is wondering at this point, too. So, Bruce, love you, man. Appreciate the time, as always. We'll see you at a Terp Talk. We'll check in again after the Big Ten, all right?
You got it, buddy. Take care.
All right, there he goes. Bruce Posner, Terp Talk, the way to find him, terptalk.com. You can find me in the Toyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Don't forget, the morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. Now with the Maryland Jockey Club and the Laurel entries in our morning newspaper as well as our website, you'll be hearing more about the racing and the Preakness and things coming up at Laurel and at Pimlico. Nasty at WNST.net finds me, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And the previously mentioned Chris Tillman announcement. Any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos is here on Thursday from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.